I want to talk about what an image is because I think that this is going to help you to conceptualize what the image of the antichrist is right now. Pete Sessions is a U.S. congressman who represents Texas. And when he was asked about why it is that the United States is giving blank check support to Israel, he said this entire matter, that is, the entire matter of support for counterfeit Israel, is based on our Creator. But it's also based on a chosen people, whom he has defined to be this counterfeit Israel. And recently, Tucker Carlson kind of chided Ted Cruz in an interview on how Ted Cruz was defining Israel. Again, defining Israel to be this counterfeit Israel, this land that's in the Middle East, this people who is supposedly descended. Because Ted Cruz had made a statement that in Sunday school, when he was growing up, that he learned that whoever blesses Israel will be blessed and whoever curses Israel will be cursed. Well, now I've been saying this for a lot longer than Tucker Carlson has come out and said it, but good on him. He has the platform, and I'm glad that he made the comment. He kind of laughed and chuckled and was mocking Ted Cruz by saying, so you're defining Israel. First of all, he asked him where that was in the Bible, and Ted Cruz couldn't even tell him. Why? Because counterfeit Christianity does not receive their doctrines, their theology from God and His Word. They receive it from man. It's clear that that's where Ted Cruz received that from. And that he's also received his definitions from man. He couldn't even say where it was. He had no context for how God spoke this. And if you have no context for how God spoke this, then how do you know who he's talking about? Or how do you know who he's talking to? He said this to Abraham, and he said it to Jacob. Whoever blesses you, I will bless. And whoever curses you, I will curse. He didn't say this, by the way, about Israel, which is the way that it's been cited. So Tucker Carlson, as he's talking to him, he says, so you're defining Israel. You think that the Israel that God is talking about is the Israel with all of it, the borders that it has today, with the prime minister that it has today. You think that's the Israel that God has described. And he said in Genesis, but I'm going to even extend that and say, what about the New Testament? Everyone likes to throw out the Old Testament and focus on the New Testament. Now in this situation, we throw out the New Testament, we focus on the Old. I mean, it's just it is such a representation of rejection of truth in favor of forming one's own narrative. The word says, in the New Testament, Jesus in the book of John is acknowledging that there are a group of Jews who are descended from Abraham, and he says, I know that you are descended from Abraham, but if you were Abraham's children, you would do what Abraham does. You are doing the works of your own father. You are children of the devil. So he couldn't possibly be defining Israel based on descent. And furthermore, Paul tells us that not all who are descended from Israel are Israel. Not all who are descended from Abraham are Abraham's children, and that a Jew is defined by circumcision of the heart, not by physical circumcision. So, not by descent, and not by physical circumcision. And yet this is the doctrine, this is the theology that is coming out of the United States White House. This is what's informing their blank check support to this group of people who they call chosen, who do not obey God's laws. And you know what? That's a match made in heaven, isn't it? Or maybe I should say a match made in hell. Because the United States does not obey God's laws. Never in a million years would Jesus have been okay with us going to war like this. You know why? Because Jesus said, you can't murder. God did not tell them to do this. So Pete Sessions, as a representative of the United States Congress, is telling us the reason why America gives blank check support to Israel, because they believe that this entire matter is based on their Creator, which they set second to this so-called chosen people, but also on a chosen people. And so setting up the matter of worshiping a chosen people and setting up them up with God, not under God or submitted to God, but as equal to. And actually, in their behaviors, as before God. If you are worshiping a group of people, if you are submitting yourself to a group of people who disobey God's laws and take on a name, the name of Israel, the name of Jew, the name of chosen people, take that on for themselves in order to manipulate others to do what they want, and yet have no regard for God, they have no regard for God. The Israel of 1948 is not the Israel that is in the Bible. I've demonstrated that to you. And so if that's what you are submitting yourself to, you have actually set that up before God. And that's really the definition of an idol. It's something you've done in your heart. You don't need a physical representation of an image in order to have an image. You don't need a physical representation of an idol in order to have an idol. What they have done is set up the matter of worshiping a chosen people and setting them up before God, not under God or submitted to God. So much so that they suspend all common sense regarding the evil that they are supporting and executing in the supposed name of God. This is an image. What's the first image that we talk about in the Bible? We talk about the calf, the golden calf that the people set up. God had brought them out of Egypt with great signs and wonders, but they made something with their own hands. And then they credited the works of God to this thing, saying, you brought us up out of Egypt. I mean, stupidest thing in the world, right? You make something, God does all this, and then you make something with your own hands, and then you say, you're our God. You brought us up out of Egypt. No sense. That this image has no breath, it has no abilities. It wasn't even in existence until about 2 minutes ago when you made it with your own hands. But now you deny your God and the things that he's done for you in favor of something that you made with your own hands. And they worshipped it. And likewise, counterfeit Christianity has traded in Christ, who is our intercessor and through whom we are adopted into sonship and are saved and are reconciled to the Father. They have traded him in for a group of people who can't save themselves, who commit evil, who commit murder and sodomy and theft. And they believe that certain things need to happen with this people in order for them to be saved. That this people are going to bear their covenant for them by being persecuted by the antichrist. But it's okay. Let's just push that forward so that we can go up in the rapture, a word that's not even in the Bible. Neither is this the way that things go down. The irony of that is that they are the antichrist, because the antichrist is a kingdom of counterfeit religion, of counterfeit truth, of everything that stands in opposition to Christ. It is the kingdom of the Antichrist, who is the devil. They are the Antichrist. And the persecuting powers are the image of the Antichrist, the very thing that they worship, and the false prophet. In Revelation 13, we discover that the image of the Antichrist is alive. It has breath. It has power. And that it forces all to receive the mark of the beast and to its mark, and to worship it or to die. That's the image of the Antichrist that is doing this. And the false prophet is forcing everyone to receive the mark and to worship the image of the Antichrist, or to be blacklisted, to not be able to buy or sell. Those are the persecuting powers. Is that irony or what? So this image, and actually in Revelation 9, you discover that that image of the Antichrist is actually going after those who don't have the seal of God. So this divided kingdom, remember God talked about a divided kingdom will not stand. He doesn't have a divided kingdom. He has a kingdom that is united by his spirit. But this is a divided kingdom, and that image of the Antichrist is actually going to go after those who don't have the seal of God in the first woe, when the Antichrist rises. For 5 months, it's going to torture those who do not have the seal of God, and they will long to die, but death will elude them. They will not be able to die. They will be tortured by the image of the Antichrist for 5 months, the very thing that they worship. And listen to what is prophesied about this in Ezekiel 21, verse 22. Into his right hand will come the lot for Jerusalem, where he set up battering rams to give the command to slaughter, to sound the battle cry, to set up battering rams against the gates, to build a ramp, and to erect siege works. It will seem like a false omen to those who've sworn allegiance to him, but he will remind them of their guilt and take them captive. He's going to turn on them. Do you see that? Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says, because you have brought to mind your guilt by your open rebellion, revealing your sins in all that you do. Because you've done this, you will be taken captive. Ironic, isn't it? But you know what? Throughout the Bible, God hands you over to the spirit you've chosen. You want to rely on the king of Assyria? You want to rely on Egypt? You want to rely on Satan? You'll be handed over to it. That's what you'll be enslaved to, because God is a respecter of choice. He is giving you a choice. He is giving you the truth, but these people reject truth, and so God rejects them as his priests. This image has no abilities. It cannot save itself. And yet, counterfeit Christianity worships it and submits themselves to do its bidding, even while suspending all sense and all morality regarding what God has commanded. They replace God's law with the laws of man and the agenda of the Antichrist within them. This is not only a replacement for Christ, but it is in opposition to what Christ taught regarding justice and defending the oppressed and caring for the foreigner, and do not mistreat or oppress a foreigner, for you were foreigners in Egypt. Remember that from Exodus 22:21? They reject the truth, and in so doing, they reject God. This is what they worship. An image of the Antichrist. An image of everything that is in opposition to Christ. And they place that before Christ. Just like the cross. The cross is also an image. You were told not to set up any graven images. What do you think a cross, a physical cross? We're not talking about the symbolism of the cross, which is discussed in the Bible, but no one's talking about an image of the cross because they knew better. They knew that they weren't to set up an image. And when you have a cross in front of you, start relating with that. You're not relating with God. You're relating with that. Bowing down to it, kissing it, talking to it. Same thing with the many pastors and teachers that you gather around yourselves. You start relating with them and thinking, oh, but I hear from God through them. You don't have the sense to recognize that God is supposed to be in you, and you're supposed to take God with you wherever you go and be relating with him as you're listening to someone. Is what they're saying true, Lord? How do you want me to implement this? Should I be listening to this person? But you guys don't do that. You don't discern anything. If you did, you'd be moved to obey. You set up images and idols before God. You set them up before him. You don't relate with him directly and put him first in your life so that then you can be moved to actually live correctly and understand correctly. And so you are at risk of worshiping these other things before God. That's an image. That's an idol. And it's not the fault of that other thing. Yes, these people are wicked, but it's not their fault. It's yours. This is what's going on in your heart. Go discern this message with God.